The NFL draft order is set, and we're going to break down how it impacts the Broncos. If the Broncos want to trade for Tyler Warren or trade up to get Tyler Warren or Ashton Jeanty, how far do they have to go up, and what teams do they need to jump? It all starts now on the DNVR Broncos.
Oh no. There was a downfall.
It's Award Wednesday on the DNVR Broncos podcast, where we are rocking and rolling with you live in the Toyota Lounge, driven by your local Front Range Toyota stores, and a chilly DNVR bar today. Henry's got a coat on. Todd's got a coat on, and you need it because it is like 5 degrees outside right now. But we're here to warm you up. I got Super Bowl 50 champ Todd Davis on my left, Henry Chisholm on my right. We got Tiff and Dion behind the camera. Yours truly, Zach Stevens, rocking and rolling with you today. Fellas, how we doing today?
Cold. We are cold. I don't know why it's this cold right now. New Orleans felt great. This doesn't feel as good. I'm ready for spring.
At least we all live inside, so. I mean, like, I got in the garage. Like, you just take the elevator down the garage, get in the car, drive here, and it's like a 2-minute walk outside and then 2-minute walk back. So I'll have about 4 minutes outside today.
So your car was warm? When I got my car, was freezing.
Oh, it might be freezing on the way back. In the garage, it was nice and warm because I'm way underground.
Wow, you're way privileged, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe.
Todd, you get in a warm car?
I did.
I need the
You
automatic
remote start?
Yeah, I just do. You don't have the app?
Oh, get
see,
out of here.
I thought we were still using like a clicker thing. It's on an app now?
No, I just hit the app and say,
He's like, you don't
Wow.
touch your
Set
glasses to
required
start
temperature.
your
Yeah.
to start your car now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get one of those.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna need one of those. Maybe the new Toyotas have them. Maybe that's
I'm
what
sure
I need to
they
do.
do.
Get that new
For sure.
Toyota.
An app, though, is crazy. Do you even have to like bring the key with you?
if I want to drive, yes.
Oh, okay.
But if I want to just like
Start it and
start it, turn the alarm on, yeah.
the alarm.
You can turn the alarm on. Should we turn the alarm on right now?
I don't know if you can
That
hear
could be a
it.
little
You
fun.
want to try it? My car is literally right there. Watch.
Let's be quiet.
I can do the horn and blinker or just the blinkers.
That is
I don't hear
amazing.
anything.
You guys can
What
hear
if your
it.
phone died right after you turned it on?
Oh, then it's just...
It's going
just
forever.
Wow.
So the vibes are good on a Wednesday. It's a hump day.
It is a hump day.
Halfway through the week, and we have the weekly Award Wednesday, as we're gonna call it. Guys, I don't know if you saw the news this morning. 3 people have been honored by the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame as the 2024 Professional Athletes of the Year for last year. One of them is a Bronco. Did either of you see this news this
No.
morning? Okay.
I did not.
Who are they? One of them's a Bronco.
To be in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame, do you have to be from Colorado?
So, no, you don't
Okay.
have to be. But this is this is like an award that the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame gives out, but it's not to people that are in the Hall of Fame. Like, people that are in the Hall of Fame are pretty much done with their careers.
So just the best
John
3
Elway's.
Colorado athletes of the year.
Yeah, pretty much.
And-
Professional athletes.
Okay, so professional. Okay, so it's not the college guys.
Bo Nix.
I'm
Zach-
going Pat. I'm going Pat as the one Bronco.
Oh, shoot, I forgot. Yeah.
Which
love
one,
Bo, though.
Which one are we going with?
Pat. Pat
Then
was
I'll
the
go
one.
Bo just because.
Okay, we're splitting it up. And then
Wow.
what about outside? There's 2 more guys.
So
2 more
Nicola
professional athletes.
had to get it.
No, he's saying outside of Colorado. Or are you saying
I'm
outside
sorry,
the Broncos?
outside of the Broncos. I'm sorry.
I mean, it should be Nikola Jokic and Nathan McKinnon. I wonder if
You're questioning
I'm
yourself, though.
No,
You're
'cause
saying
I'm trying
very
to think.
skeptical.
Well, we have so many awesome soccer players from here, and so it's like, did Sophia Smith do something that I'm unaware of, or did Mal Pugh do something that I'm unaware of? And I don't.
What do you think? Did Sophia Smith? Do you
Yep.
think she took home the award?
Was there
Yeah.
there a World Cup this year? A Women's World Cup? I
You
think that was
asking the
last year.
wrong
I think that was
person for
last
that.
year. It all just kind of runs together. I'm gonna stick with McKinnon. Like, there are 3 really great athletes. Stick with those 3.
Would
I'm
you?
going to rock with Hank on this one.
Except you're going with Bo.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Henry 3 for 3.
There we go.
Impressive.
Okay.
Pat Sertan, Nathan McKinnon, and Nikola Jokic right there. So congratulations to Pat Sertan. He just continues to rack up the awards. What other awards can we give? What are we going to be coming with next Wednesday?
I think he has
on
enough.
The show? He's got them all?
I think the case is full. We can call it a season.
Yeah, he has them all. Unless you start going like GQ and those kind of awards, you know what I'm saying? I guess that's another lane.
I think like he's been on the cover of GQ in the past, so maybe he could rack that up this
Who's been
year
on the
too.
cover?
I think Pat.
Already?
I doubt
that's
it.
fire.
Maybe.
He's had at least some features done
Yeah.
on it. Maybe he hasn't
Yeah.
been a cover, but I think he won like GQ.
Man of the year?
Yeah, like dressed man of the year, was a finalist for it, something like that.
Oh, yeah, but I think Caleb won for football
Okay,
players.
okay. But
Pat
Pat
should
was
have
a
painted his
finalist,
nails.
though, I think.
Okay,
Yeah, painting his nails. Ryan Williams now doing that down at Alabama. Just got a sponsorship.
It's one of those. So the tooth thing, you know about that?
Yeah.
One of the side effects, can't bite my nails. So my nails are currently the longest they've been in a very long time.
You could always cut them.
I know, well, I'm going to, but now it's just like, it's this weird feeling now. It's like, huh.
But I
Maybe-
saw something that like biting your nails is like really bad for you
Oh.
and your nails.
Yeah, and on top of that, just gross too.
Yeah.
Like it's
Like
a
your-
terrible habit.
Like your teeth?
Like your teeth and your
Yeah.
nails. And I guess when you bite your nails, there's like stuff under your nails as far as like
Mine were too
fungus.
short.
Oh,
And so
okay.
when you bite it, instead of it being hitting under your nails, it like releases into like the atmosphere. And, like,
Oh no.
yeah. it's
Maybe
pretty
just
nasty.
wash your hands to get rid of that fungus?
Maybe, I don't know. Or just cut your nails too.
That's what I need to do.
But
But
it
the
sounds
point
like
is,
you're a big nail cutter, not
yeah,
biter.
I like
My-
manicures. No paint, but
no paint. Because that's the thing now is I can paint them now.
don't
Okay.
do it.
I
Well,
got
team, don't.
I got a pedicure for the first time like 2 months ago or something.
Nice,
Went with
right?
my wife. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
Very
Like, no
nice.
wonder you get these like once a week. You're like, I would lay back in a chair, get a massage, and you know what I'm
100%,
saying? Your feet are all
100%.
smooth. You don't even want to put your shoes back on.
No,
Wow.
of course not.
You're asking
No.
for some of those like temporary flip flops.
Yep. One more thing to get into before we bring in our draft guy, Fran Duffy. The Saints have officially hired the final coach of this coaching cycle. Kellen Moore is ending up in New Orleans. What do you think about that hire, Todd?
I'm interested to see how he does as a head coach. I think he's been very successful transitioning from quarterback to OC, and now I think head coach is like it's a different dynamic. There's a lot of smart people that are great coordinators, but just can't be head coach. I'm not saying he's one of them, but I'm always interested to see how people transition. Even Staley, I heard, was maybe the front runner for defensive coordinator. Great defensive coordinator.
Yeah.
Head coach, not so much.
Yeah.
Defensive coordinator, number one in the league last year. Head coach, we saw how it happened in LA, but it's always interesting when people make that transition.
Yeah.
And I think it's like a decent situation. You rarely get like a good situation as a new coach just because the bad teams are the ones who fire coaches. But like you give him Derek Carr so he could run an offense. You don't have like the greatest weapons. You might not have the greatest line. Like you also don't have the greatest quarterback. But I think they can at least be functional on that side. And then if they can just add a piece or two on defense.
They're in cap hell, though, bro.
I
Yeah,
know.
they are.
$50 million over the cap going into this year.
Yeah,
That's
it's crazy.
brutal.
is-
Speaking
yeah.
of Derek Carr and Kellen Moore beat Derek Carr in college 51-7.
It's crazy.
You think he's going to hold that over his head the entire time he's his coach?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's all
Derek
he
Carr's
has
gonna
against
question
them right
something
now.
he says, and he's going to be like, nope. I beat you by 44 points?
Yep.
No, you got nothing on me. And the one thing, how it relates to the Broncos, is Darren Rizzi officially did not get that job with the Saints. So now he can officially accept the Broncos special teams coordinator position. The Broncos are doing a search, and the search might last for, they're going to be hiring up to 10 coaches or so. That search is going to begin this week, next week. So I wouldn't be surprised in the next week or 10 days if we kind of know the Broncos staff officially right there. And I do expect it to be the Riz coming to Denver to be the special teams coordinator.
Yeah, that'll be great. I feel like they have a lot of positions they need to fill. So a lot of hiring to be done. So, it's a good place to be as a Bronco. Like you said, whenever coaches leave, that means your organization is in a good place and you have a good coaching staff. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's see what happens. Also, Alex in the chat, I'm not trying to sell you on the Saints. I'm just saying it's a nice, stable situation to jump into. Go 500 for a couple of years and build from there.
Yeah.
Not trying to sell you on them.
Yeah, I mean, you have at least a decent quarterback instead of no quarterback or something like that. Okay, let's turn our attention toward the draft and talk to our draft expert, Fran Duffy. I got some interesting questions to ask him about, and I want to hear from him after I give a shout out to our friends over at Hello Fresh, where if you're tired of figuring out what's for dinner night after night, especially on those busy weekdays, you got to have Hello Fresh deliver your meals straight to you. It's easy to find time to eat well with 50 wholesome, hassle-free meals to choose from each week, delivered straight to your door. And how it works is they're ready-made meals that go from your fridge to the fork in just 3 minutes. They're delicious, they're fresh, they're healthy, and they are as convenient as can be. And if you want to get a deal from HelloFresh, you're going to get up to 10 free meals and a free high-protein item for life at HelloFresh.com/Broncos10FM. That's Broncos10FM over at HelloFresh.com/Broncos10FM. One item per box with active subscription. Free meals applied as discount on first box. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's up to 10 free meals over at HelloFresh by going to HelloFresh.com/Broncos10FM. And make sure to check them out because they're America's #1 meal kit.
And check out Verizon because everybody needs a phone. Always good to be streaming stuff or texting or calling people. You can call people on phones too. So many different things you can do with the phone, and Verizon's the best place to go get one because no matter who your current carrier is, they will give you $800 to pay off your phone. So the way it works is for a limited time, new customers get up to $800 in a prepaid MasterCard to pay off your current smartphone loan when you switch. That's right, you heard me, $800. So if you're somewhere else and you got $800 left, it's super easiest to jump in. They've got all sorts of awesome plans if you want to sign up with Verizon. And again, just trade in any phone from their top brands with select unlimited plans. This deal won't last long, so don't get stuck on the bench. Switch to Verizon today. Take control of your game plan. Visit your local Verizon store for more details.
All right, and let's jump over to the franchise. Let's bring in our draft expert, Fran Duffy. This past month, scouting the Senior Bowl, scouting the Shrine Bowl, getting all the information, and then he capped it off by being at the Super Bowl last year. And Fran, shout out to the Eagles for taking down the Chiefs and making everyone in Broncos country happy.
Yeah, I know there were plenty of people out west that were excited with the outcome of that game. Not more than there was in the city of brotherly love. I will say it was pretty nuts. We did our post-game show over at PHLY, and like the celebration in Center City, fireworks were going off right outside our window. It was a fun 3 hours for the post-game show. But look, it's draft season for all 32 teams now, so I'm excited. It's my favorite time of year.
I can't believe, I mean, you haven't even had the parade. That's on Friday, and you're already just jumping toward the draft. And like you said, it's because it's your favorite time of the season. So, Fran, let's go to the draft. And now the draft order's officially set. We know the Eagles got the 32nd pick. We know the Titans have the first pick. We know the Broncos have the 20th pick. What I want to kind of big picture start off with you here is, how will the first 19 picks impact the Broncos at 20? Like last year, if you were a team that didn't need a quarterback and you were picking 20, that was probably a great spot because 6 quarterbacks went off the board. So it just meant that outside talent fell to you at 20. How do you think the first 19 picks in a very general sense are going to fall and how that could potentially impact the Broncos?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was just on with the DLLS crew, and we were talking through the same thing for those guys with the Cowboys picking at 12, and the same conversation applies here where, you know, we're going to go out to Indianapolis in a couple weeks for the combine, and that's where there's a lot of information trading when it comes to like media with scouts and with personnel and with coaches. You start to get a little bit of a sense how the draft is going to crystallize in the first round. Obviously, nothing is in pen yet, much less marker. But I think when you're looking at this draft in particular, it's going to be very, very hard to predict. And the reason why is because of the ambiguity at the top of the draft. I think that when you look at just the lack of like true blue chip talent, we talked earlier this offseason about how that's a benefit for the Broncos. I don't think that this year there's a huge difference between the guy that goes, we'll say, pick 9 to the Saints, pick 10 to the Bears, pick 11 to the 49ers, and what the Broncos will get at number 20. This is going to be a year where you are going to hear teams that are in the back end of the first round. They're saying, we had a top 10 grade on this guy, because there's so much after that select few of like true blue chip players in this class, which you might count on one hand just this year. I think that's kind of how most people view this group. You count that group, and then after that, you get to these next buckets where it's going to be a lot of differing opinions in terms of, we view this guy as a starter for our team, or, we might get 3 other teams to say, oh yeah, but this guy's a backup for us. Right. And so I think because of that ambiguity, that plays in the Broncos' favor, where there could be some talent that falls to them that maybe they weren't expecting. Now, how do I see these top 20? I'm glad that we have the draft order up on the screen for our YouTube viewers, because when you look at it, to me, the strength of this class is along the line of scrimmage. I think this is a meat and potatoes class. You're going to look at running back. That's very deep. You're going to look at tight end. That's very deep. That also is something that plays in the Broncos' favor, right? And so if you don't get Tyler Warren, if you don't get Ashton Jeanty, well, you get to day 2, and maybe you get Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, a big bruising running back who plays through contact really well. Maybe you get Elijah Arroyo, who could be a perfect joker for Sean Payton down in Miami. He had a great Senior Bowl week. Maybe he's a guy you get in the second round. And so I do think in a lot of ways this class really kind of plays to the Broncos' favor. And when you look at not just round 1 with who could fall to them at 20, but then also the overall depth of this class at positions of need for Sean Payton in this depth chart.
I'm curious about this offensive line group, because you mentioned that you think the strength is kind of in the trenches, but a lot of these guys, it seems like, similar to what you said, just varying opinions, whether it's Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks. Like, it just seems like there's this whole list of offensive linemen who some of them seem like they could go top 5, but also could be outside the top 20. From a Broncos perspective, we're just kind of hoping to see as many offensive linemen off the board as possible and save some of the other spots the Broncos have more of a need for pick 20.
No question. And honestly, like that's you listed out a couple of names there that are, I think, are perfect. In particular, Kelvin Banks. You talk with some analysts, you talk with some scouts, and they're like, Kelvin Banks is one of the cleanest players you can watch here. He's a top 5 player, a top 10 player in this draft. And I'm going to say, like, flat out, I don't agree with that, right? I know I've talked with others that would agree with my sentiment, right? Where it's like, I don't know if that guy's a top 5, top 10 pick. I think he's probably more of like a back end of round 1, maybe even a round 2 type of player that you would typically see in a typical year. But the way I think that we're going to couch a lot of stuff, and when I say we, I mean, people in the draft industry, or even, you get into scouts and coaches in this class, you're going to hear me say that a lot this year. In this class, maybe Kelvin Banks is a top 10 pick. Maybe he's a top 15 pick, right? And so I think that when you look at a lot of these players, it will be a beauty is in the eye of the beholder type of draft, where everybody is going, and this is the case every year, but I think that it's going to be especially so this year. It'll be especially noticeable because of how specific all of these players will need to fit these players. And to me, like, this could be a year where I don't know if you guys remember, like when Tyson Alualu out of Cal went to the Jacksonville Jaguars at like 9th overall. That was a big surprise. When the Buffalo Bills selected Dante Whitner, the safety out of Ohio State, at number 8 overall, that was a surprise. I think, again, because of that ambiguity, we could see like some guys go in the top 15. Maybe we were talking about him in round 2, right? And the opposite, where a guy falls to 27 that was being talked about as the 12th overall pick, right? I think there will be cases like that in this class.
Because there's so much ambiguity and there's so much depth at the tight end and running back position, in your opinion, do you think it'd be smart for the Broncos to actually trade back, acquire more picks, and still be able to get good talent in the second round?
I think you can always make that case. And I know that, listening to Sean Payton and George Payton talk about that in years past, that, Sean Payton is very aggressive, whereas George Payton is much more measured and would love to be able to trade back whenever possible. It's been fun watching those guys talk through that publicly. I'm sure that the conversations behind the scenes are a little bit more heated, but, me personally, I'm always more of a fan of trading back and getting more bites at the apple. But I do think like there are opportunities where, hey, you know what? Like this guy at this position is starting to fall. I think you have to let the board kind of play to you and see exactly how things are going, right? So if you see, if it's a situation where a bunch of offensive linemen are going off the board and it's a player that, you had a top 10 grade on in this class and he's falling to you, well, now you can be opportunistic, right, and see if you can make that jump. If it's going the other way and guys are falling off the board that maybe you had earmarked that high, and you get a call, you get a trade offer to move up, now it's like, okay, let's do that. And I think, looking at the way that Howie Roseman has operated in years past here in Philadelphia, that has always been a thing that he has done really, really well, is kind of work the board, let it come to you. A lot of people thought that he was going to have to move up if he wanted to get Quinyon Mitchell last year out of Toledo. He's probably going to have to trade up into the middle part of the teens, right in the first round. But as the board played out, he said, I don't think we're going to have to. I don't think we're going to have to. And he sat patient, waited, and got the runner-up for the Defensive Rookie of the Year, without having to move up, right? So I think you go in and let the board come to you. I think that's something that would be a prudent strategy for George Paton and Sean Payton in this draft.
Yeah, I want to be a fly on the wall when George tries to convince Sean to trade back. And good luck to George on convincing him to do that. But continuing with this conversation, Fran, and I know we're, 3 months out still, so a lot's going to change. But how many first-round quarterbacks are there going to be? Because I think right now the consensus is like there's going to be 2 picked in the top 10 picks and then maybe no other ones. But I saw a crazy mock draft yesterday that had Jackson Dart going in the 20s. You also have conversations about Jalen Milroe. Maybe he's fallen. Maybe he still will be a first-round pick. Is there a chance that there's 4, maybe more first-round quarterbacks, or is it just going to be those 2?
I think right now I would say there's 2. I would be surprised if Jackson Dart worked his way into that conversation. I would be surprised at this point if Jalen Milroe worked his way into that conversation. I think the tape was just a little bit too up and down for Milroe this year. Now, the traits are remarkable. He's a peerless character off the field. And so I think anytime you're talking about high character guys with high physical upside, then especially in this class, again, going back to that, in this class, I could see a team say, if you're in the back end of the first round and say, hey, you know what? Like, there are worse stabs to make, right? Worse risks that you could take if you're an organization trying to find that quarterback of the future, particularly if you have, an older quarterback and you want to say, all right, we don't need to play this guy right now. He can go and he can sit in the wings. I think that might be a situation where Milroe could benefit. But I think when you're looking at it overall, Jackson Dart in the first round would surprise me. I know that there are some people that are big fans of his and what he did, especially this year, but I just don't know that there's enough there from a physical standpoint to say like, oh yeah, like we want to put this guy, in the first round of a draft. So I think at the end of the day, it's probably just Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders.
Looking at these receivers, it seems like Travis Hunter, Tedero McMillan, they're off the board. Like the Broncos just won't be able to get them at pick 20. The rest of them, though, it seems like any number of them could still be available at pick 20, whether it's Luther Burden or Emeka Egbuka, Matthew Golden, Trey Harris. When you see those guys, do you see them as good options at 20, a bit of a reach, or you're lucky if they fall? How does that group kind of shake out?
Yeah, I think that when you look, typically the way I look at draft classes as we get closer, as we get into like late March into early April, and depending on what team we're talking about, I'll kind of list out scenarios like, all right, definitely off the board, no shot this guy is there, at number 20 versus, he could be there, or he's probably not there, or he definitely will be there, right? I agree with you. I think that when you look at Hunter and T-Mac, Tetero and McMillan, those guys are definitely off the board by the time you get to 20. I would put Luther Burden from Missouri as probably off the board. This was a guy that I had as wide receiver 1 coming into the year. I know the production was not there this year. There was inconsistencies with the pass game. Teams really zeroed in on him. And so the numbers from a volume standpoint just weren't present there for Luther Burden. But that's a dynamic playmaker, with the ball in his hands underneath. He can be that vertical threat over the top. He can line up inside and outside. So, Luther Burden, I think at the end of the day, I'm going to be hard pressed to not have him in my top 20 when I do my first big board, in a couple weeks after the combine. So I think when you look at Burden, he's a guy I would expect probably off the board for the Broncos at 20. And then you get into the rest of it. And the way that I'm viewing them right now is that they're probably less than ideal at 20 overall. I do think it's probably a little bit of a reach for those guys. But in this class, if you want to get ahead on a receiver, then I think that's a situation where you could see those guys come off the board in that part of the draft.
Just like in every draft, I'm sure there's a few sleepers in this draft. Who are some guys that you feel like deserve a lot more credit and aren't being talked about enough that are really talented?
Yeah, I would say, when you look at defensive tackle, this is a really deep group. And so, to me, like there are some names where they're getting a lot of love, and then there are others where I'm looking around after watching like Omar Norman Lott from Tennessee. And I'm like, why are we not talking about this guy as a top 30, top 40 type selection? And honestly, it's easy to say why, and that's because he's got one career start. Tennessee had one of the best defensive lines in football last year, and this was a guy that came off the bench and was a terror. When you look at his explosive first step, his power off the ball, his ability to disrupt both the run game and pass game, he's so violent with his hands. Just seeing him up close, he's built the right way for those interior disruptors. And so when I look at Omar Norman Lott, the D tackle from Tennessee, this is a guy that I think would fit really well in a Vance Joseph type scheme. And also, I think that a lot of teams are going to be looking for that type. He reminds me a little bit of what Milton Williams was coming out of Louisiana Tech a few years ago, kind of a lighter D tackle, converted defensive end who kicked inside late in his career at La Tech, and then obviously turned into a really good player for the Philadelphia Eagles. They had a couple sacks on Sunday night and is set for a big payday here this spring. And so when you look at Omar Norman Lott, he's got that kind of skill set that could get you really excited. And then I'll go offensively. It's a player that I mentioned a little bit earlier in the show, and I saw him live down at the Senior Bowl as well, and that's Elijah Arroyo from Miami. This is a guy that has that ability to beat you in a number of different ways. When I hear Sean Payton, talk about like what he wants from a joker, it's like Elijah Arroyo's face shows up in the dictionary under joker. He is a movable chess piece offensively. He averaged 16 yards a catch. He has the ability to create yards after the catch, in terms of like the quick game and screen game. They can do like gadgety stuff with him out of the backfield, but then also vertically down the seam. He was, basically didn't put any balls on the ground when he was targeted deep down the field in that offense. So Elijah Arroyo, the tight end from Miami, is another guy that really excites me.
Fran, it's always awesome to talk to you. Pick your brain, get so much detailed information. We appreciate it. And to our listeners, if you guys want more of this, Fran's writing articles over at thednvr.com. He just dropped one this morning about everything you learned the past 3 weeks being on the road, from Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders, plus so many others. So make sure to go check that out over at the DNVR. And Fran, thanks for helping us build the Broncos franchise up again.
Yep, we'll talk next week, guys. Looking forward to it.
Right on. Thanks. There he is, Fran Duffy, the great Fran Duffy. Man, could you imagine if the Broncos drafted someone that had one start and they drafted him in the second round? How just wild from like an optics standpoint. Wouldn't necessarily be the wrong move, but just how crazy that would be.
It would be. You would just be like, all right, Sean, we'll see what you
Better
you
not
saw.
be wrong.
Yeah. When you take those shots, man, you just can't miss.
Yeah.
When there's a guy that's
right.
underrated. But of course, you got a lot of guys who go undrafted with no name that turn out to be superstars, or Antonio Gates who goes to the Hall of Fame. Had someone take a shot and drafted Antonio Gates in the first round, everybody would have called him crazy.
Yep.
But at the end of his career, everybody was like, oh, we just
What a
didn't
steal.
see it.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it just depends on if he's the guy.
Or even last year, you had Devon Bailey in the 7th round.
Yep.
Not quite the same, but it was like, who is this guy?
Yeah.
Nobody had any idea.
500
Turns out he's
receiving
good.
yards at
Yeah.
Utah.
Turns out he's good.
Yeah.
So it worked.
It would almost be like the Quinn Meinerz pick, where it's like this guy. The most notable thing about Quinn Meinerz coming out of the draft was he did home recorded videos of him like picking up trees and knocking dead trees over and stuff. And it's like, okay, let's see if this works. And now he's an all-pro, the best left guard in the game right now. So a right guard in the game right now. So it just shows you, there's different ways to get guys. So it would just be crazy from an Octa's side. And I know people that aren't as dialed in on the draft would freak out over it.
Sure.
What the heck? He wasn't good enough to start at Tennessee, and you just use a second-round pick on him? So let's continue this conversation and talk about what Fran said and dive into this draft order and how it impacts the Broncos after I give a shout-out to our friends over at Shady Rays, where if you need sunglasses, whether it's sunny out, whether it's snowing out, you still need sunglasses when it's snowing out. In fact, that's sometimes when it's the brightest, the most difficult to drive, is because it just everything's white around you and the sun's reflecting off it, and it's very difficult to see. You're going to need Shady Rays. What I love about Shady Rays, a couple of things. They've got so many different pairs of sunglasses to choose from. If you ever put a sunglass on your face, they've got that style for you over at Shady Rays, where they have hundreds of options. Plus, they're all polarized. On top of that, They're already affordably priced compared to so many other sunglass brands where they're just insanely priced. Shady Rays is affordably priced, and then you can get 35% off of those already affordable prices by using the code DNVR over at shadyrays.com. Over 300,000 people have given them 5-star reviews. So they're approved by us. They're approved by over 300,000 people. So if you use that code DNVR over at shadyrays.com, you're going to get 35% off already great priced and great quality sunglasses. Check them out, shadyrays.com.
And shout out to our friends over at Game Time. If you're looking for the best value in tickets for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, and more, you can check out our friends over at Game Time. Hank, did you end up going to that?
I didn't.
Oh, dang.
I fell asleep.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, maybe tonight you'll be awake for.
Maybe tonight.
something
I don't. Tonight the Nuggets are on TV. Oh no, Blazers are here tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, can get them for $23.
Go check out a Nuggets game. You can check out Game Time right now. And the great thing about Game Time is they have the all-in pricing. So as you see on your screen right there, you'll be able to know exactly what you're going to pay as you search through the venue to see what the different prices are. You won't have to worry about thousands of dollars of fees hitting your account as soon as you go to checkout. Also, they have the lowest price guarantee, or Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So don't worry about finding cheaper tickets anywhere. Game Time definitely has you covered. You could take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DNVR for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code DNVR for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed.
All right, so let's take a look at this draft board. Since we all asked Fran about it, let's see what it looks like and what's the ideal situation for how the first 19 picks play out. Henry, you asked about offensive linemen to Fran. I asked about quarterbacks. Todd, what's the ideal thing for this draft to play out in front of the Broncos?
Everybody takes offensive lineman or a quarterback. And the Broncos have their pick of Jeanty, Warren, Travis Hunter, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, man.
That would be awesome.
That'd be nice.
Probably won't work out like that. Yeah, there are a couple teams that need a running back, though. That's the scary thing about it, is that more than a couple. So, and a few that need a tight end, too. So, I know this class is supposed to be deep, but I definitely think our top two guys will be off the board.
Yeah, it seems that way. I wish that this was one of the classes with a great center prospect, but it just
There's a center out of Sac State. He's doing really well at the Senior Bowl.
Let's see him in the 7th round. I'm in. But it just, especially watching that Super Bowl where it's like those might be the two best centers in the NFL who just played against each other. If you just added that final piece, it'd be nice. But as of now, there's really nobody jumps off the page. So I just go as many offensive linemen off the board as possible.
Totally agree. And just leave at pick 20, have Tyler Warren and Ashton Jeanty be there, and you get your pick right there. So then you mentioned you think both those guys are going to be gone. What teams do we have to worry about from 1 all the way to 19? And let's do this player by player. Let's start with Tyler Warren. What teams do we realistically have to worry about potentially drafting Tyler Warren? And we can start it. We can just go through it, starting at 1. No, right? The Titans with the number 1 overall pick aren't going to draft Tyler Warren.
Yeah. You
2,
wouldn't think so.
Probably too high. 3 with the Giants, too high. 4 with the Patriots. Whoa.
I mean,
okay.
a lot of people say
fair.
he's like a top 3, top 5 prospect in the draft.
Totally.
Like it would be pretty crazy. But I mean, Kyle Pitts went number 4.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean the Giants, they don't have Evan Ingram anymore, right?
No, and they had Darren Waller more recently than that. Yeah, He's retired.
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably not, but it's possible. Patriots will still have Hunter Henry, right?
Yep.
But I don't think that stops you from drafting a tight end.
You know who the Jags have?
Tall guy, fast guy.
You didn't just say his name?
I can't say his name.
He did just say his name.
Wait, do they still have him?
Who?
The freaking Giants guy. Who I just said his name.
He just said his name.
He was a Giant.
But Evan
Ingram. There we go. Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, they probably wouldn't. But I think there's maybe 5 or 10 tight ends in the NFL who would stop you from drafting Tyler Warren.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you have George Kittle, you probably don't do it. You know,
Absolutely
but
not.
at the same time, like it would be awesome to have 2 tight ends in that offense, and Kittle's a free agent next year. But still, you'd say probably not. I just think most teams could use a tight end. and he'd be an upgrade for pretty much anybody.
And like you said, Henry, he is viewed as like a top 3, top 5 player in this draft. That's not taking positional value, and that's how he could fall to 20. It's because of positional value. It would be the most Raiders thing ever to pick Tyler Warren here. And
I mean,
then be
they
like
picked
3.
Michael.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Meyer 2 years ago in the second round. Second round, first round would be crazy.
Yeah, it would be. Now, I think the Raiders are going to pass on him there. But, Henry, I'm happy that you stopped me and said, like, hey, maybe he could go as high as 3, probably not 4. So, Giants may be a team to just keep one eye slightly open. You don't have to worry about them too much. But, so the Raiders, no. Jets, I mean, what does anyone have any idea what the Jets are doing now?
Not at all.
Like,
but I don't see why they would. I mean, they have Conklin there, which
Conklin's a free agent.
But he's a free agent, and I mean,
Yep.
I feel
Jeremy Ruckert is the only tight end on the roster.
especially if you're going to keep Gary Wilson or potentially trade him. I mean,
if they're rebuilding, do you go tight end in the first round with the top 7 pick?
if you have a generational
If you think
talent.
he's that good.
That's fair. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think he's that
with
good.
Brock Bowers, right?
Yeah.
That's what the Raiders
They
are
would
doing.
if Brock Bowers was on the board there, you'd say you should probably take Brock Bowers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man,
But you hope-
I would question
Because
that.
what? Tyron Smith's a free agent. Morgan Moses is a free agent. Oh, they still have Olu Fashanu, who was a first round pick last year. So you'd imagine
yeah.
he's one starting tackle, but they'll need to find another starting tackle.
Yeah.
So you hope it's a tackle here, but they might just sign a guy or bring somebody back.
Panthers?
Could certainly be the Panthers.
This is one for me where realistically, Henry, you aren't wrong saying like the Giants could draft him. For me personally, this is one where it's like, okay, I could actually see this being a pick. To help Bryce Young, get him a generational tight end. Yeah, this is where I think like the real conversation starts, where personally I think the door opens for him truly going off the board at 8.
Yeah. And maybe you want to see receivers off the board too. Like if
sure.
you're selling out for Tyler Warren and Jeanty, as much as I think that could be a good, like they also have Adam Thielen, Xavier Legette, Jalen Coker. Almost any team in the NFL could use a better third receiver. And if you draft a guy in the first round, that's generally a pretty good starting point.
Yeah.
Because like if you just look across the league, how many teams are there where you say like, I don't want to take that third receiver off the field? Like the Bills, maybe that'd be like Curtis Samuel. But the list is so short that anybody could take one if you like them.
Totally. And honestly, we didn't talk enough about what Sean Payton, well, actually we did talk about it, but we need to emphasize it more. What Sean Payton told Kay Adams. She tried to press him so hard to admit that the Broncos need a veteran wide receiver or an upgraded receiver, and he couldn't have pushed back more. He said that's like a want, not necessarily a need.
He said it's a need.
Not a must-have.
Yeah.
And then he went to, no, what we need is that tight end or running back that can be a joker. He said the wide receiver position on the Broncos is a lot stronger than needed. So I think it's fair to ask about Luther Burton and see where he's going to go and see if he could be there, because especially like Fran said, a lot of people had him as the number 1 receiver going into this past college season. So he's very talented, but I don't think that's a position that Sean wants. I think he's good with what he has, and I think Sean thinks, I can find receivers. I can make receivers 2 notches better than they truly are. So I'm not going to use a first-round pick on them. So, Henry, I agree. You want offensive linemen and quarterbacks and wide receivers to go heavy in this draft or early in this draft.
Yeah. But the thing about Sean, you never know what he's truly thinking, you know?
Yeah.
Because I think he had us all fooled with J.J. McCarthy last year because they were hyping him up a little bit.
They were.
And then all of a sudden it was like, nah, we want the Bo Nix the whole time.
And then
Is that
like
what you think he's doing?
I don't know. There could be a wide receiver out there that they just love, and they're like, yeah, get all
Exactly.
these receivers and running backs off the board.
and it could be he starts looking at draft prospects in a month and sees Trey Harris from Ole Miss, who's like 6'2" and 200 and whatever pounds and can just fly, and says like, this guy would be perfect. Like he's a run after catch threat. How is this guy supposed to go in the second round? We want him at 20.
But I don't know. I still think if you look at this roster, I still think running back and tight end is probably where the Broncos could use the most.
If you go sign Aaron Jones and Mike Gesicki, that changes a little bit though.
It does change a lot.
Yeah.
Also, though, if you, if you look at how Sean has used the Joker position, what he said, all the evidence is behind that. He hasn't used a Joker like Marvin Mims until the final, month of this season. Every other Joker that he's had truly has been Jimmy Graham, Jeremy Shockey, Taysom Hill, I guess, and then also Alvin Kamara, Darren Sproles, Reggie Bush, all of those guys. So they have not been that receiver
That's
position.
why they have to get one.
Yes. And we're saying they
yes.
have to get one, but we're just saying maybe they don't do it in the draft.
Maybe it's not with your first round pick.
Yeah.
Also, I don't think Sean Payton has ever drafted a first-round receiver.
No.
Chris Olave with the Saints was after Sean had left. Michael Thomas was a second-round pick.
Yeah.
And then a couple of other guys have been like seventh-round undrafted guys too.
History's made to be broken.
It's true.
You're making me think about this a little bit more now.
I have no
I
inside
feel pretty
information.
comfortable that
I'm just like
he.
playing devil's advocate from time to time.
I feel pretty comfortable the Broncos are not going to go wide receiver.
I would say it's more likely they don't take a tight end or running back than they do.
Wow.
I would say I would
disagree.
take the field over that. Just because again, like you probably just aren't going to have a good option there.
Because I think the guy they take at 20 has to be undeniable, whether it's
Exactly.
a D tackle or a tight end, wide receiver, running back. He has to be like very talented.
Well, then let me ask you guys right now. Who, right now, the draft was right now. Who do you think the Broncos take?
Like my man Fran, I got to watch the board. I got to see how the board is playing out. You know what I'm saying? I can't make a prediction.
Well, let's
If I had
play
to
it out.
pick
Let's
one
go
guy-
1 through 19.
If I had to bet on one guy, I'd pick Colston Loveland.
That's who I would pick too. This is
Yeah.
a tight end.
But again, like I think more likely than not, it's the field and not that.
Interesting.
Also, Sean drafted Robert Meacham in the first round.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And also
how long ago was that?
2007.
Okay.
And
okay.
then
do
there
you
was
mean?
one
In the
other.
past 2 decades.
Brandon-
The past
Oh
18
my
years.
God.
I'm
You
sorry.
said it never
I'm
happened.
sorry. Yep, I was wrong.
And Brandon Cooks in 2014.
Oh, yeah, that was my year. Boo, boo, boo. I
There you
should
go.
have
He
known
did
that.
do Cooks. Yep,
Yeah,
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 Cooks was the
they did
first
And
do
then
one.
Cooks.
flipped him for a first the next year.
Yeah.
2 years after,
Yeah, it was
wasn't
very,
it?
very
More of an investment than a draft pick.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it was. Okay, so you're right on that. In the past decade, he hasn't drafted.
No, that was 2014. Well, I
yeah,
guess it is.
2015
Yeah. Oh, my God.
So I'm sorry about that.
Just said
Thank
a
you
couple
for
weeks
correcting
ago.
me
Yeah,
there.
3 weeks ago. wasn't it?
No, like 6 weeks ago. Sorry, you're way
That's
too
true.
behind here.
Yeah.
So I could see the Panthers. Let's continue to do this with Tyler Warren. Panthers could take him.
Yep.
Saints.
I mean,
Guess they could, I think they have other issues.
not if they let Juwan Johnson walk. I mean, they have plenty of issues. Like they could go defensive line, linebacker, receiver. They could use
Corner.
more.
They traded
but they also
Marshawn
could
Lattimore.
certainly use a tight end.
Yeah, it's not one that I pinpoint to be tight end though.
No.
Bears, no, they've got All Cities and CHGO's Cole Kmet
Yeah.
there. The 49ers, no, especially since they still have Kittle. Cowboys, no.
It'd be fun if the 49ers did though.
Oh, it'd be a blast.
Especially if that's like their way of saying like, okay, Kittle's out the door next year. So instead of paying him, we're going to save money right here. They'd
Or
have to
Debo's
really,
out the
really
door.
think he's good. You don't think so?
That's it. Or Debo's out the door.
Yeah.
And then now we're just running 12 personnel instead of 11. We're running the
Yeah.
same plays. We're just using Tyler Warren instead of Debo Samuel.
And he's
Yeah.
like the rare tight end prospect who can block.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So like you can run all that wide zone stuff and get him out there.
that'd be fun.
I could see him considering it.
Talk about a luxury for a 6-11 team this past season.
Yeah.
Cowboys,
They could use it.
no, I don't think so. They've got, was it Jake Ferguson? Who was a top pick for them, and now they're paying him a lot of money. And,
Are they paying him that much?
I think so. I think they
Let me
signed him
see.
to a semi-big deal.
22,
Heck, I
23,
was wrong
24.
about the first-round
You
receiver,
He's
guys
still-
think they're going running back?
He's still on a rookie deal.
potentially.
Yeah, but yeah, like
But wasn't he a first-round pick?
fourth.
Fourth? wow.
Dang, bro, you're all over the place.
I am
know.
so off today. Wow.
Tomorrow will be better. But yeah, also the receivers, like you have CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Tolbert, like Brandon Cooks is a free agent. You could bring him back. They have nothing there. They need offensive linemen. They need like DeMarcus Lawrence is a free agent. They need an edge rusher.
So-
Oso Digizua.
So that was my point. Was I think
Yeah.
there's more pressing needs for the Cowboys.
They're more pressing needs, but if you address those in free agency, but
What
then still need a tight end.
To be fair, doing this, we could make the case for every team needing a tight end. We just talked about
Yeah.
George Kittle and the 49ers, one of the best tight ends in the NFL, potentially needing a tight end. Like you can't. You're only taking one player though. It's more so like
totally.
do you actually see them drafting a tight end?
Yes.
The Cowboys.
I could
No, I
see
would
it.
say they would probably go running back.
Which will, when we do this conversation with Ashton Jeanty, will play into it. So then let's just go quickly through these next few teams because I think we've come to a conclusion already here. But you have the Dolphins. Could you see it happening?
Who do they have now? I can't remember.
No idea. So maybe?
Probably. Yeah.
But
Was Gesicki there? Who was their tight end?
Gesicki left.
he was
for
there a
the
while ago.
Bengals.
Gesicki's now with the Bengals, but now he's
Yeah.
a free agent too. So potentially the Colts. This is another one.
Mhm.
Yep.
When
they
it-
really need one.
Personally, I think it's the Panthers up to this point that really could use him, and the Colts. And a lot of people think like, man, if he falls past the Colts, then you might be able to get him at 20. But the Colts is a big stepping stone there. The Falcons, probably not with Kyle Pitts there.
Yeah, probably not.
Cardinals, no. Trade McBride. Bengals, do they keep Mike Gesicki or not? If they keep him, then no. If not, maybe that's their draft pick right there. Seahawks got the Broncos guy, your former teammate Todd, Noah Fant. Doesn't mean they can't take him, but not desperate there. And then the Buccaneers, who do they have?
He might go crazy.
They've got a good one. I think. Make me second guess myself.
He might go crazy.
He might.
Cade Otton and Devin Culp.
He might go crazy. at the Bucs.
He might, yeah.
With Baker?
Yeah, that might be crazy. They already have a
Yeah.
running game. They have a running back they drafted last year.
Yeah. So doing this
Old wide
exercise,
receivers, young wide receivers.
doing this exercise is bad news, I think, because I think I was the one that said the fewest number of teams, and I think the Panthers, the Colts, potentially the Bengals. Todd, I'll buy what you're putting down. The Buccaneers, that's 4 teams ahead of the Broncos, and Henry made an argument for like 18 of the 19 teams ahead of the Broncos. So I'm scared. I'm not quite sure Tyler Warren's going to be there. Let's say Sean told George. This is me telling you guys are George and I'm Sean. And I say, I need Tyler Warren. Do whatever you have to do to get him. You hear that in your George? Where are you trading?
Right in front of the Panthers.
Uh,
You're going all the way to 7, huh?
Like, if you really want him that bad.
If you have to get him. And
Like,
not-
yeah, I mean, I haven't looked at all the mock drafts, but I just pulled up the Tankathon. They've got him going 8 to the Panthers.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's if you really have to go get him, then that's where you go.
So you think 7?
Probably.
So you were just fibbing me with that Giants at 3.
I mean, I don't think they'll take him. I don't think the Panthers will even take him. But, I mean, I won't be surprised if they do.
the Giants are taking Shador and then they're firing their coach and getting Prime.
That's
That would
probably,
be
yeah.
crazy.
That's what I
Yeah.
And then you're the defensive
Again, I don't have
coordinator
any-
in New
I
York.
don't have any inside information.
Is that more or less likely than them drafting Tyler Warren?
Oh,
The
I
whole
think,
scenario.
I think what Todd said
really?
is way more likely than the Giants.
Including firing the coach and
Yeah.
hiring Shador.
Yeah,
That's
or-
just a big.
Oh my.
Yeah.
That's big. That's big business.
Yeah.
Like
Okay.
even
Huge
outside of
big- yeah.
just like we're making tons of money
Wow.
off jersey sales and
Yeah.
everything.
We are now going from 0 to 1 primetime games for the Giants to now 6.
for sure.
Yep.
For sure. And it doesn't matter whether we do
Yep.
good or not.
No.
But everybody wants to see it.
And it will be a talking point throughout the whole season, whether they're good or not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And the Giants, right now, they've just been garbage for so long. At least have people talk about you if you're garbage.
Yep.
And in New York, holy cow. So then you're trading a 2nd and 4th round pick to get up there?
I thought it was more. I mean, last year we were talking about multiple firsts to make some of these trades. I think at least the first, right?
Yeah.
Well, so I'm thinking of it from the Broncos' perspective. When the Steelers went from 20 to 10 to trade with the Broncos so they could get Devin Bush. And
I feel like that was
they gave
a
up
decade ago, like you like to say.
Yeah.
No, that was, that'd be 2017.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's only gotten more expensive to make those trades, not
think
less
so?
expensive.
It's
I think
expensive
so.
when you're desperate for a quarterback. When it's not a quarterback, it's typically not as expensive.
So what
So
did they?
it's-
So what did they give the Broncos?
A 2nd.
It's probably a first to get up to 7 then.
No, I think it'd be. I could be wrong. I would think a 2nd and a 4th. I think a 4th gets it from 10 to 7, or maybe it's a 3rd. Maybe it is a 1st. And if that's the case, would you do 2 firsts to get up to 7?
No, it's just one first, and then it's a swap in the first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I couldn't
don't
do it.
know.
I couldn't do it.
No.
I mean, if I'm George and Sean says that we need to do it, then I'm gonna do it.
Well, yeah, because you
Yeah.
want your job.
Well, not just that. I just feel like the turnaround that's happened in the last 2 years is worth me going in and being like, all right, I'm gonna find a way to get this guy because obviously what you've done with the lackluster roster is enough for me to say if I give you a blue chip talent, like we'll probably do even better.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
I
would give up a third.
That's it.
Yep.
Dang, that's crazy.
So you would get.
I'm not.
You would try to jump the Bengals. Maybe going from 20 to 16, you could jump the Bengals.
Yeah, I could get behind that. Other than that, I'll sit there and I'll take Colston Loveland.
Okay.
Like the draft is so much of a crapshoot anyway. I'm not going crazy in this one.
I hadn't looked at Tyler Warren's numbers because I just watched him play and knew he was a beast. Have you guys seen his numbers from this past year? I mean, I'm sure you have. It's typically. Have you seen his numbers?
Mm-hmm.
Over 100 catches, over 1,200 receiving yards as a tight end. Insane. And his play on the field might be even better than that. So, I mean, that's why you're considering potentially giving up an extra first-round pick to go get him. Let's do the same thing, just quicker, with Ashton Jeanty. How far would the Broncos have to go up if they wanted to secure him? And how many teams are there that scare you that might draft him in front of the Broncos? So stop me when I go through the draft order when you think there's a team there. The Titans.
No. Number one?
Probably
He's
not.
not going number one.
Probably, no, he won't go number one. You go Travis Hunter first.
Browns.
No.
No.
You're getting there.
No, I don't.
I don't see him going. I'm not stopping you until you get to the Cowboys.
Honestly.
So I would fast forward all the way to pick 12, the Cowboys.
Yes.
You're stopping me. Henry, where
he's
would
one
you
of
stop me?
He's one of the 3 best football players in the draft, so I wouldn't be surprised if he's the top 3 pick. I mean, Bijan was 4th, Saquon was 2nd. If we had this conversation 2 months ago, saying he would be outside the top 8 would be insane. But now people have kind of changed their opinion a little bit, and it's the mocks have him sliding the Cowboys. I don't know where exactly. I mean, the Patriots could use a running back, but I mean,
They just paid Stevenson 3 years, $12 million a year or something, $10 million a year.
is it that much?
Is it 8? It's definitely not less than 8.
I think anywhere up there is possible. I mean, he's arguably the best player in the draft. And I'd go Travis Hunter. There'd be plenty of people who'd say it's Ashton Jeanty was the best player in college football.
Or
Was the best
Carter.
prospect. Yeah, there are a couple. Those people are wrong though.
Carter's I think now
I
more
know.
of the consensus number one best
Which is
player in the
crazy because
Dude,
we had a
his
whole
get off
football
is
season. He
so
just got
good.
hot at the end of the year.
His
So
get
was
off-
Nick Benito's, and he was a 2nd-round pick.
His get off is Vaughn. It's insane.
Okay, if you're sure, but I wonder where his line is set right now. Because I'm not sure if anybody has odds up, but again, 2 months ago he was a lock to be a top 8, top 5 type pick, and now I think by the end of this we get back there.
Henry, if you find those odds, you should take the under because I think it's going to be set way higher than you think.
might
I think
be
it's
now.
going to be. I think it's going to be right where Todd thinks. I think it's going to be 11.5 is where his line's going to be because of those Cowboys. The earliest I could see him going is 5 or 6. And I just think those teams, the Jags and the Raiders, go different directions. It would be a very Raiders pick to go out and get a flashy running back with their first pick, though, especially if Shador's not there. But the Cowboys, a big one. Henry, when you go through, I mean, what teams would you really, not just they could take him, but man, you got to be worried about him taking?
Jags, you don't know what they're doing with ETN because he has 1 year left on that deal. Raiders could obviously use him. Jets have Breece Hall, so you'd think no.
Mhm.
Panthers seem happy with Chuba Hubbard and Jonathan Brooks. Saints,
Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, Alvin.
I mean, that could be kind of interesting. You get 2 of them for a year or 2, and Kamara's probably out after a year. Probably not. DeAndre Swift still with the Bears, so you wouldn't think so. Christian McCaffrey, if you trade him, then it'd make sense, but that's more
They're
a
not trading
conspiracy
them.
theory.
Right back to the Cowboys.
There's Cowboys, yeah.
So yeah,
So,
I mean,
there's-
going through that, for me, it's only the Raiders. It's the
Really?
Raiders, and then
Yeah, Raiders
he
for
falls
sure,
to the
yeah.
Cowboys.
I'd say Raiders, Jags, maybe Saints too.
Okay. And then what about the Dolphins?
Oh, definitely. I mean, they have good running
Ooh, I'd
backs.
say
but
no
he-
way.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just think, I
We
mean,
got 2 really good running backs.
but if you can get the best player in the draft or one of the best players in the draft at 13 in that offense, I get they've got good running backs. You find ways. You drafted Bijan. He was the last super high draft pick for a running back, and he was splitting touches all season. And he's still splitting touches. And they're trying to get away from that now, but just because
So you could legitimately see the Dolphins drafting Okay, I can't.
I think that's a
With
luxury.
Mike
I don't
McDaniel?
think that would be a luxury
Yeah, I
for them.
can't.
Like
It would be a luxury.
They need help to protect their quarterback, and then they also need help on defense. Like, I don't know if they would just go out and, even though he would be the best player at that position or at that time, I think they still need other things to fortify their team. Because a good running back with no offensive line or a good running back and you're potentially losing Tyreek Hill, like, you still have other places you need to shore up.
Colts, I can't make the argument.
No.
Got Jonathan Taylor. Falcons, definitely no. Bijan, unless you want. Cardinals, no. They just paid James Cook.
Probably not.
James
But
Conner.
again, like when you're
James
talking
Conner,
about him
thank
at
you.
16 at this point, like they're going to be tempted if he's still on the board.
But do you think they will?
I mean, I'd guess no for all these teams.
Okay, so then stop. You guys stop me if I say a team that you think could.
Bengals could for sure.
Bengals could for sure. Seahawks, no. Kenneth Walker,
Okay.
he's the truth. And then I would say no for the Bucks. Probably not.
They just drafted
Bucky Irving.
yeah.
Yeah. So I'd
And
say
he
no.
had a pretty good season.
Yeah. So then, taking all of this in, if you're George and Sean tells you I need Ashton Jeanty, trade up from the experiment we just did, Henry, you think they might have to go all the way up to 4 potentially to get in front of the Jags?
If you want to be sure, you would.
I'd probably go to 5, but I think if you gamble a little bit, you got to just jump the Cowboys.
Yep.
You got to get up to 11, where you have some friends out in San Francisco that you might be able to do some deals with. So what do we say? For Tyler Warren, you got to get up to 7 to the Jets.
Yep.
Jeanty, you got to get up to 11 with the 49ers. But what I'm encouraged about, if Jeanty falls past the Cowboys, I feel pretty comfortable. Like, you're rolling the dice a little bit, but it's not like there's like 5 teams that are desperately wanting him between the Cowboys and the Broncos. You might get him.
You're rolling loaded dice and trying not to crap out. It's crazy.
I really like this exercise. We'll continue to look at this maybe at other positions as well. But we got some super chats that we got to hit before we get out of here. And shout out to the Toyota chat. Shout out to everyone rocking and rolling with us. Hit us with a thumbs up if you're tuning in. It really helps us out, especially in these off-season pods. Those thumbs up really give us a boost, and we appreciate it a lot. First super chat coming in from Xavier, who says, what about Cam Scatabo? I like him for us. What do you guys think about Cam?
Yeah, I mean, he's good. The tough part with all those mid-round running backs is that you have to do something before then. Like, and I guess you probably have to do that regardless. You have to sign a running back in free agency before they draft, regardless of what the plan is. And if you were to go get like an Aaron Jones or a Najee Harris, then yeah, like going and drafting Cam Scatabo would make sense. The tough part is if you go and grab like a Ty Johnson from the Bills and you're like, okay, we really need somebody we can trust. I'm not sure you can go with Cam Scatabo in the draft just because there is a lot of risk there. Like the athleticism isn't anything all that special. Like there was a lot of like running over guys who were smaller than him. I think it's going to translate to the NFL, but there's a real risk that it doesn't.
What do you think of Cam?
I like Cam. I mean,
Yep.
Sac State guy. He left us, but he started with us. Ultimately, I feel like you want more production from your running backs, but I don't think there's like a high bar that he has to come and live up to right now.
That is true.
So if you did take a tight end in the first round and then grabbed him in a later round, I don't see a problem with that.
He'd be a fun one to get it if he's like still in the 4th. Man, could you imagine drafting running back in the 1st and the 4th round? Doing a little Kirk Cousins, RG3, but at the running back position. But heck, I mean, the Broncos, what did Sean say? He says we need multiple guys at that position. After the season, he said we need multiple guys at that position. So I do agree, though, with what you said, Henry. You got to get someone in free agency or earlier in the draft before you get him. I don't think he's the number one on this team that really need. You want to go out and say it? He's the number 1 running back?
No, it's not what I'm saying.
Oh, so we won't
I
say it,
wouldn't
but
say
you
that
won't
at
say it
all.
either.
Yeah, no.
And final super chat coming in from our friend Josh Morton or Morton. I can't read it, but I think it's that. Thanks, Josh. We appreciate you. He says, love the show. Tyler Warren should be the pick. If not, trade back Garrett Wilson. Would also be a perfect fit in this offense. I agree with you, Josh. I'm getting more and more on the Garrett Wilson to Denver train, even though some other guys might be holding me back.
He's a perfect fit, but I still don't think he's worth the. It's like you're getting a perfect fit at long snapper. It's not quite like that.
Wow.
It's not quite like that.
What?
But I mean, you're the guys talking about receivers in the offense. Like trading a first round pick for a number 2 receiver is like, oh, that's not.
Oh, Garrett Wilson's not a number 2 receiver.
But he is though. Like that's like his body type. Like he's your Emmanuel Sanders, and you'd want a Demaryius Thomas opposite him. Again, like I think long term you can make it work if you say like we'll
Justin
pay
Jefferson's
Garrett Wilson
small.
for a while. Yeah, but there's just a difference there. Like he's making big guy plays. Like he's winning the one-on-ones on the boundary, like the comebacks and all that sort of stuff.
Garrett
Like
Wilson does
it's
that.
so many like crossers and drags and like you need your big X receiver to just win one-on-one and not.
Well, we had this conversation yesterday,
Yeah.
so we're going to hit the final super chat from Hydramo, who says Trayvon Henderson does more with less carries. The Broncos got him. Man, I'd be pumped. He is so explosive coming out of the back. Either of the Ohio State guys, honestly. Very explosive. Yeah. Yeah. I've known from watching with my own 2 eyes on TV, Todd.
Little shower highlights.
Yeah, maybe he's up next.
I don't get that excited. That's going to do it for us on the DNVR Broncos podcast. We'll be back tomorrow, 11 a.m. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow. And we're going to build our perfect offseason for the Broncos. We'll see how it goes. See ya.
Lovely.
We all silly like the mayor.